on energy sustainable materials and design. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We have had a huge number of registrations, and we look forward to all of you interacting with our esteemed panelists today. I'll quickly take you through the introductory slides. Most of you who have registered today know exactly what IRIS is all about. It's a platform that provides you with an opportunity to get recognized on the world stage. It inspires research and innovation in the field of science and guides and mentors you to improve your research-based project. In fact, this year we are very happy to note that a lot of people are finding that the webinars that we are doing before you can actually submit your synopsis are being applauded as of great help to students. Please mute your microphones right now. You will be given a chance to speak after the esteemed speaker has finished giving his presentation. As of now, please keep your mics on mute. You will have a fair chance to ask your questions and type them in the chat box so that they can be answered when the esteemed speaker starts taking questions. The key objectives of IRIS is to stimulate young minds to take an active interest in science and technology, to encourage students to use research as a tool for creating new knowledge. And we hope that people who come to this platform build a better scientific temperament. The annual IRIS timeline, according to that, we are in the phase where we normally conduct outreach programs through workshops, but because of the present situation, we have decided to do webinars in the various subject categories. We now have a total of 21 IRIS subject categories, and today's webinar is the 10th in the series of IRIS subject category webinars. We hope to continue with the IRIS National Fair timeline the way it was last year. So please be on the lookout for notifications which tell you when the synopsis submissions will begin and when the portal will be open for submission of synopsis. So we just have a few guidelines as far as participation eligibility is concerned. IRIS is a platform for students of Indian origin who are studying in schools based in India. You can participate individually or in a team of 2 students. There are 2 categories: junior category, which is class 5 to 8, which qualifies for special awards and the Broadcom Masters Awards, and the senior category from class 9 to 12, in which students who win can compete for participation at the International Science and Engineering Fair, the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. Students who have completed their class 12 board exam at the time of project submission will not be permitted to participate. In the past, we have seen that there have been students who, even though they have completed their class 12 board exam, have tried to participate in the IRIS National Fair. We are sorry, but you're not eligible for participation. Even if you take a gap year after class 12, you are still not eligible for participation. You can associate with IRIS, however, through volunteering, through mentoring, and through collaborating with the IRIS National Fair. You can be a volunteer at the IRIS National Fair at multiple levels. You can help with mentoring of projects, and you can definitely help in collaborating with IRIS by offering your facilities for students to come and do research and for students to come and be mentored at your organization. So today, we welcome Dr. Kaushik Pal. Dr. Kaushik Pal heads the Department of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering at IIT Roorkee. He's a member of the IRIS Scientific Review Committee. His current research interest is related to Center for Nanotechnology, composites for high-performance sensor, actuator, and supercapacitor application, energy storage devices, polymeric nanocomposites for high-performance applications. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik Pal, for taking time to join us this afternoon, and I hand over the session to you. Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharon, for the nice introductions. So now I am sharing my PPT. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon to all. So today, basically, I am going to tell you about that what kind of work or maybe what kind of projects or maybe what kind of problems you can take for the energy point of view, because as the Sharon told in IRIS or maybe the ISF, we are having so many subject category. So energy is one of them. So basically today we are going to discuss about the energy, that is the sustainable materials and the design sections. Okay. So I am not going into the details about myself, already Sharon has shared to you. So now in a few lines, just I am going to tell you that what basically the IRIS and the ISF is basically. So the IRIS National Fair promotes and nurtures the science and scientific research among young Indian innovators. So basically in this particular case, we are basically nurtures the best talent from the India, those who are qualifying the national fairs, and then after that they are going for the ISF in the international standard. It recognizes and rewards the outstanding projects. Of course, it provides a platform for meaning students to represent India. Generally, we are calling it as a Team India at the International Science and Engineering Fair, ISF, the world largest international pre-college science competitions held annually in the US. So now basically the right hand side, Sharon has already explained this one, that how we are going that the whole year long program to nurture you guys so that you can take part in the ISF at the international level. So now basically my job is to tell you that if you are taking any kind of topic in terms of the energy or maybe the energy sustainable or maybe the related area, that what you can think about. So basically the what is energy, right? So basically the energy is essential to life and all living organisms. So basically there are several types of energy. We are calling it as a physical energy as well as the chemical energy. So sometimes we are talking about the light, sometimes we are talking about the sound, sometimes we are talking about some kind of other things also. So basically everything is coming under the umbrella of energy. So there are two types of things. So first is that suppose when I am generating that particular energy, so that is basically called, in the technical term, we are basically calling it as energy harvesting. So there are n number of methods by which we can generate the energy. Even if you can see that in the winter time also, so basically when we are feeling more cold, so basically in the normal thing, what we are doing, basically we are having two hands by which we are rubbing. So why we are rubbing? So the thing is that it will generate certain kind of heat energy over there. So I feel comfortable. So everything, every research and everything, it has come from the nature itself. So nature has teaches us that what kind of energy or maybe what kind of things are there. So now we have to look into that. We have to give more concentration onto that to snatch the best thing from there. So first, as I told already, energy harvesting means where we are generating or maybe harvesting the energy. So it is a process that captures the small amount of energy that would otherwise be lost as heat, light, sound, vibrations, or movement. So I am giving you a small examples, maybe 20 or 30 years back. So that time we don't know about much about that solar energy, right? So sun, every day it is coming in the morning and going in the evening, and then what is happening? It is giving a lots of energy to the earth itself. So it is giving the temperature, it is giving the heat. Now earlier days that heat is coming everywhere, but we are not able to capture that particular heat. Now people are thinking that if we are able to capture that particular heat, and then if we able to capture that particular heat and convert it into some energy, because heat energy is also required. Say suppose if we want to heat the or maybe the boil the water or maybe heat everything, and sometimes we need the other conventional energy or maybe the non-conventional energy like the electrical energy, right? So that heat energy we can convert into some electrical energy, or maybe we can convert into some other energy. So it will be good for us, because in future why I am talking about this kind of examples, because in future maybe after 20 years or 30 years. So our coal or maybe the petroleum products, because these all are coming from the mines, and this is also the very limited source. So what will happen, maybe after certain time, we are not going to get these kind of things in enormous. So this is a consumption already has been done under the earth crust. So automatically it is going to finish maybe within a few years. So at that time also we need energy. So where or maybe how we can get this kind of energy? So basically now we are slowly tending towards the non-conventional energy. So non-conventional energy, you can heard about the solar energy. Non-conventional energy, you can heard about some kind of supercapacitors or maybe some kind of other batteries, or maybe sometimes we are having some tidal powers or maybe some other powers where we can store this kind of non-conventional things. And then the second is that we have produced the energy, how we can store it, because sun is coming, as I told already, in the daytime. But if I need the energy in the evening time, so what I am going to do? So how I can save that particular energy? So I need certain kind of storage device where I can store my energy, what has been produced in the daytime, so that I can utilize it into the, as per my requirement, or maybe in the night time. And also another thing is that when we are generating this kind of non-conventional energy, so the amount of the energy is very less. So we cannot use that energy directly to the system. So that's why we used to know that energy storage systems, where one by one or maybe 1 + 1 + 1 like that, the energy will store, accumulate. When it will make a big number like 10 or 100, that time I can utilize. So just I am giving the examples. If I am getting a 1 unit from a particular non-conventional energy which is not successful, or maybe which is not required, or maybe which is not capable to give the lighting any bulbs, or maybe the running the fans, or maybe running the motors, or maybe any kind of instruments. But if I am able to store 1 by 1 and I can make it like a 10 unit, so that unit is more than sufficient to lighting, or maybe the for fan purpose, or maybe to energize any kind of equipments or maybe instruments. So that's why 2. Now we are talking about, nowadays you can heard about that, we are talking about the renewable energy, right? So using the more renewable energy can lower the price of and demand of natural gas, oil. As I told already, these all are the limited sources. Today or tomorrow it is going to finish. So we have to survive. So how can survive unless and until there will be any energy? So that's why nowadays people, scientists, they are thinking to talk about the renewable energy, or maybe tends to the renewable energy. So right hand side you can see that energy I am dividing into 2 parts. One is the harvesting, another is the storage. If I talk about the harvesting, I am having the solar energy, I am having the hydrogen energy, I am having the nano generators, I am having the other conventional energy. Now if I talk about the energy storage, I am having the electrochemical batteries, supercapacitors, hydrogen storage, and the thermal energy storage. Now the question is that why the research is in energy is so important. First is that the research into the technologies which are essential for long-term evolutions of the energy systems. You can heard about the photovoltaic systems, or maybe the solar energy systems. So photovoltaics, energy efficiency, these all are the things, right? Now the further development of technologies which only require small steps in order to open up the new markets. Because the thing is that every day, and being a human being, our eagerness is not going to finish. Rather, I can say that every day this, or maybe our requirement is not going to finish. Every day it will be increasing, like double, triple, like that. So today I am having some gadgets. Tomorrow my number of gadgets will increase, and nowadays people are thinking about for the electric car, or maybe the electric cycles, or maybe electric bike has already come into the market. Electric car, the Tesla car has already come into the market. So maybe in future the automobile, the whole automobile sector can move into that on the renewable energy, or maybe on depends upon the batteries, or maybe some other systems. So that's why nowadays the people are thinking about the renewable energy. So the demand is enormous, research is very limited. So we have to think some new idea, new innovations, or maybe new findings by which the cost will be reduced, time taken will be reduced, but my efficiency or maybe the efficiency or maybe the output will be the maximized one. That will be our prime motto. Now the question is that if we ask that about the solar energy till today, from the literature point of view, we have gone up to maximum 19%, or maybe the for perovskite solar cells we have gone up to 21% efficiency. Now every day the scientists are trying to make certain kind of new materials, certain kind of new composites, certain kind of new things so that the efficiency can be increased. You don't think that whatever the solar light or maybe the solar sunlight is falling onto the systems, that the whole thing is converting into the energy. No, it's wrong. A maximum efficiency is 21%. Now you can understand that if I give the 100%, so only 21% I am going to convert. I am able to convert into the solar energy. So the rest of the things is waste. So if I am having, or maybe if I will be able to develop certain kind of systems which, or maybe where I can convert the more, say suppose 50%. So automatically what will happen, my input will be maximum, output will be also the minimal one. So I'll get the maximum thing from that particular conversion. So that is the innovations, that is the research over there. Next, the optimizations and adaptations of technologies which can already be used for cost friendly. As I told already, say suppose earlier days we are going to purchase certain batteries, right? So that was the normal battery, generally solid state battery, and that time it cost was if I don't know whether you have seen it or not, earlier days the Eveready is also still there. Nippo battery was used to come a few years back, maybe 10 or maybe so. So that time it cost was maximum, and then if we are going to use that battery, maybe it is going for another 5 to 10 days. After that we have to throw out. Then after that the lithium battery has come. Right, nowadays the lithium ion, basically we are calling it, we are using for the DSLR camera, we are using in computer, mobile, everywhere. So basically that battery is going for lasting for longer time. Now it is going almost about a month or maybe 2 months, like that. Nowadays people are talking about the lithium sulfur battery. So why I am telling, or maybe I am giving these examples, because is that as our requirement or maybe our dream or maybe our aim is increasing, so automatically our demand is also increasing. So we have to see that in a very low cost, the maximum energy I can generate. So that is the another point of view. Next, what is the subject categories? Basically in the IRIS point of view, areas to do research. So first one is called the biological process and design. Next one is called the solar process, materials and design. Third one is called the energy storage. Fourth one is wind and water movement power generations. I remember that a few years back, he and his sister both came from the South India, and they made one very good device that which they can put onto the sea, or maybe some sea shore, or maybe the sea, and only by the water wave they can generate the electricity. That was a very good project actually. So I think it is 2 to 3 years back we have already gone through these kind of projects. Next one is called the hydrogen generations and storage, thermal generations and design, triboelectricity. Tribo is nothing but a Greek word. The tribo meaning is that to rub. So basically I am having two materials. When I am going to rub, so it will generate certain kind of energy. That energy I am going to convert into the electrical energy. That's why it is called the triboelectricity and the others. Next, what is the biological process and design? So basically the best example is that plant. So in the plant, what is happening when the sunlight is coming? So it is how it is generating the oxygen to the systems, because it is only coming the sunlight, it is capturing the carbon dioxide now we can understand that how a plant is converting the energy from one form to another. It is taking the toxic gases from the environment like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide kind of things. It is absorbing, it is making their foods also, and they are giving the oxygens. So, and also they are just collecting the sunlight from the environment itself. We are talking about the biofuels, biomass. So that also made starting elements for the biological energy harvesting systems. Now the question is that how we can prepare our research problems. So basically the thing is that, as I told already, you have to think about the input parameters. So how, in which way I can maximize my efficiency, whether I can change my material, whether I can change my process, whether I can change my mechanisms by which I can get the maximum efficiency or maybe the maximum output. Biomass, it's a very easily available, is a renewable organic resources, include forest residue, millwood waste, waste from pulp, paper mills, agricultural crop waste, animal waste, municipal solid waste, so on. So nowadays you can see that municipality or maybe the corporations, they are collecting the garbages or maybe this kind of food waste from the home, and then they are taking to some plant over there. They are converting into either some fertilizers or maybe they are using for it some energy generations. Some microbial electrolysis cells is a novel bioelectrochemical tool for hydrogen production that employs the domestic and industrial waste as fuel source. Use electrochemically active bacteria. There are certain bacteria so which are able to generate some kind of electric current. They are acting as a biocatalyst. Some biological hydrogen can be generated from plants by biophotolysis of water using the microalgae, green algae, cyanobacteria. This is also one kind of bacteria. Fermentation of organic compounds and the photodecompositions of organic compounds by photosynthetic bacteria. So these all are the examples where we can think that how we can start our problem. Now come to the solar. As I told already, solar, that when the sunlight is coming, basically it is converting into the electrical energy. So basically there are so many things. Basically earlier days we are using the silicon solar die or maybe the solar cell, but nowadays people have moved forward to some second generations and the third generation solar cells. Now we are running actually in the third generations. Earlier days we are having that solar cells made by the monocrystalline or maybe the polycrystalline or maybe the amorphous silicon thin film solar cells. Then second generations we have come to the organic solar cells, dye-synthesized solar cells has come into the third generations. Some nanocrystalline based solar cells, some perovskite. This is the latest one people are doing the research, but there are certain drawbacks of the perovskite materials because it generally create the lead PB, which is not good for the environment. So now the thing is that you can see from the bottom image, as when I am talking about the first generations or maybe the second generation, third generations, there are so many things. We are having the glass substrate, we are having that metal back contact, we are having the interlayer, we are having the silicon layer. Then when we are moving to the cadmium tellurium materials, CDT is nothing but the cadmium tellurium. That means we are changing the materials. CIGS is the latest material. So basically what we are doing, so basically in this case, when we are changing these kind of materials, so automatically what is happening, our material efficiency is going to be increased. So when the material efficiency is going to be increased, so automatically my ultimate efficiency of that particular solar cell is going to be increased. So if I change any kind of materials over there, generally we are calling it as a sandwich structure. So any of the material, if we change the interlayer, if we change the, there are two things basically. If I tell you in the layman term, one is called the hole transport, another one is called the electron transport. So basically we are calling it as a HTL, hole transport layer. Another one is called the ETL, that is electron transport layer. So basically if we change the layer materials also, the efficiency is going to be changed, which is basically the people are doing nowadays. So nanotechnology is a powerful tool for a host of the solar system in support of efficient, sustainable energy conversion, storage, and the conversations. Then we are coming to the energy storage. As I told already, so first we are generating the energy, but that energy is not up to that much or maybe that quantity that we can directly utilize it. So what basically we are going to do, we are storing that small quantity of the energy in some energy storage device, and when that is maximized, we are going to use it at a time. So energy storage is accomplished by devices or physical media that store some form of energy to perform some useful operations at a later time. Batteries are there, store energy chemically. Flow battery operates. This is a very good new technology has come, that is called the flowable supercapacitor kind of things, where the continuous slurry will pass from both the sides, and the ion will be exchanged in between, and the electron is going to take out from the outer side. So basically, you can see in this particular image, we are having the two electrodes, we are having two slurry over there, we are having the pump. So the continuous electrolyte is flowing inside the systems, and I am having some membrane over there. The role of this particular membrane is that it is allowing the proton, that means positive ion plus, move from one side to another side. But when the proton will move from one side to another side, so automatically the electron should move from another side to this side, but it will restrict the electron to move from this side to this side. So what we are going to do, we are putting one DC-AC inverter over there. So the electron will pass from this, and from there we are collecting the electron from the systems. So that is a very beauty of these particular systems. Electrochemical capacitors are there, sometimes supercapacitors, ultra capacitors, or maybe the electrical double layer capacitors. In short, basically we are calling it as EDLC. So like this, it is electrical double layer. So basically we are using over there some activated carbon. Now the question is that people are using so many things. Nowadays people are using so many nanomaterials, mixing nanomaterials to increase the efficiency. So like this way, people are doing some new research or maybe the advanced research in this particular topic. Next, wind and water movement. So as I told already over there, so tidal power, basically, or maybe the wind power we are trying to utilize. So basically you can see that these kind of things basically we are putting onto the seashore. So the main cause of putting these kind of things is that because when the sunlight is coming, the water is also hitting, and also your earth or maybe the soil is also hitting. But water is hitting very fast, so automatically what will happen? So in that particular case, the water, when it will try to evaporate, so automatically some cold air from the land, it will rush to the water side, or maybe the vice versa will be taken place. So in between normal time, what will happen? Your land will be more heated up, so it will be create certain kind of warm air, but still here is the water side, so automatically the cold air is there. So cold air will try to move into the warm side. Due to that, what will happen? You are having a long fan, so that fan will rotate. So from these particular rotations, you are going to generate the electricity. So here the movement you are going. Same thing we are putting under the sea also. So when any sheep or maybe any kind of mammals or maybe any kind of sea animals are moving, so automatically due to that water wave, so this fan will rotate. So automatically you can. If we don't put that kind of energy, is still there. But unless and until you don't put this kind of system, that is a wastage. So what basically we are doing, we are trying to capture a small things over there, and we try to maximize it to getting the maximum efficiency, or maybe rather I can say the utilizations of the maximum waste power on the earth. So basically the tidal energy, I have given the example, same thing over here. So when I am putting the water from a long or maybe the height, so automatically the water is falling through in a very high speed. So due to that, if you are able to put certain kind of generators, basically we are not putting the generators, basically we are putting certain kind of turbines, and the generator is coupled with the turbines basically. So the turbine will rotate, due to that the generator spindle will rotate and generator will generate the electricity. That's all. Otherwise, if we put normal generator, either we have to put certain kind of petrol or maybe the diesel or maybe the kerosene. So that means we are putting certain kind of energy or maybe the petroleum over there that is costly, and we are generating the electricity. But in this particular case, simple, the normal water is coming from a height and then it is falling, and that energy is wasting. If we are able to capture that waste energy, so it can generate the certain kind of electricity over there. Next, hydrogen generations and the storage, as I told already, because nowadays NASA or basically ISRO, what they are doing, they are taking the hydrogen as a fuel for their GSLV rockets or maybe the other spacecraft, because the carrying of the hydrogen is not so easy, but you can carry the maximum quantity, and automatically the efficiency from the hydrogen gas is maximum. So hydrogen doesn't occur naturally as gas on the earth. It's always combined with other elements. The best example is the water, H2O, right? Fuel cells, we are talking about every time. Fuel cells are compact electrical energy producer devices that consume fuels like chemical energy via fuel, hydrogen, methanol, hydrocarbon. Nowadays, you can heard about the methane gas, some methane bed, or maybe from in the mines. So sometimes it is not good for our body. But if we are able to capture this kind of gases in a particular manner or maybe in a safety environment, we can get an enormous amount of energy from these particular sources. So these all are the basic things we can look about, and we can change certain kind of input parameters, and we can do some wonderful research from this particular topic. So there are so many methods of the hydrogen storage. If I talk about the liquidification requires large expenditure of energy, as use of insulation for liquid hydrogen requires the low temperature, less than 20 K. So I need a storage tank where I can put the liquid hydrogen, but below that temperature. Creating that temperature is very, very costly. Okay. Then gaseous, limited by volume considerations because of hydrogen's low density, even at high pressure, very large volumes. Now, that's why people are nowadays doing the research on the solid state. What they are doing, they are taking certain kind of foam kind of things. You know the foams, right? Normal foams. So if there is certain water or maybe certain things, when we are trying to rub it, so we are putting the foams. What the foams is basically doing? The foams is absorbing the whole water from the system over there. Now the same thing we are doing in this particular case also. So we are using certain kind of foams, we are putting it into hydrogen gases over there. So hydrogen gas will be trapped inside the systems, and then after that we are storing the whole thing into the some safe container. Later, when we need that hydrogen gas, simple, we'll give little bit of heat over there so that the hydrogen gas will come out from the system. So that is a very good idea people are thinking about. But this research has already been started, but so many new things or maybe the new idea is coming up in future. Next, thermal generations and the designs, as I told already. So we are having some solar thermal systems. We are having some geothermal systems also. Geothermal means simple, if we go inside the earth after certain distance, you can find the temperature is going up. So simple, what we can do, so we can capture the water from the very below level. So you can find that the hot water is coming into the systems. So the hot water, when it is coming, we are generating some steam over there. The steam will rotate the turbine. Then turbine is coupled with the generator. So simple, it will giving you the electric current. And then after that, when the water from the turbine is cooled down, simple, we are throwing that particular water into the earth itself. So it is a recycle. I am not going to take the whole water from the systems. I am just taking the heat or maybe the temperature from that particular systems, and the rest of the water again I am throwing into the systems. So the whole system will be balanced, but I can be able to generate the electricity. So our thinking should be in this particular manner. Then triboelectricity. This is a very interesting one. So in this particular case, basically what we are doing, we are doing certain kind of rubbing kind of things, and we can able to generate certain kind of electricity. Last year, one student, he has made certain kind of trioelectric last year. So he went for ISF fair. So he was working on some trioelectric nanogenerator systems. So in this particular case, you are having two systems by which you can rub the systems, and then after that what you can do, so basically you can generate the certain kind of electricity. The normal thing is that in the childhood we have done certain kind of experiments. Till now also you can take it, or maybe you can do it. So suppose you are having some comb, right? Comb. So you are combing your hair, and then after certain time, if you are having a small piece of paper, if you keep, and if you are able, or maybe if you take your comb towards the small pieces of paper, you can see that the comb is attracting those papers. So that means some kind of static electromagnetic, some electricity has been generated at that particular point of view. So what will happen? So see, normal by rubbing, there also you are having hair, you are having comb. So just you are combing means you are rubbing the comb onto your hair. Due to that, some electricity is generating at that particular point. Now my concern is that that electricity is for a particular time. After that, it will be nullified. And also, if we are able to store that small energy continuously, so after a certain time it will become large. So these all are the things is coming under the trioelectric nanogenerator. So there are basically 4 modes over there. One is called the vertical contact separation mode. Another one is contact sliding mode. In this case, you are doing the sliding. One is that you are coming from the top. Another one is called the single electrode mode. Another one is called the freestanding trioelectric. It looks like a fan. So one motor is there and a magnet is there that continuously it is rotating inside the systems. And where we are using that particular energy, cell powered keyboard. In this case also, suppose I am putting certain kind of trioelectric nanogenerator on my keyboard. So when we are continuously nowadays during this pandemic situations, continuously we are using the computer, right? So for doing online learning, online teaching, anything nowadays we are doing by the computer itself. So every time we are using the keyboard. Now every time I am pressing the keyboard button. So now if I put certain kind of nanogenerator materials kind of things, so if I am able, when I am putting the any buttons over there, so if it will be able to generate certain kind of energy, now we can understand that in a whole day how much energy I can generate. Same thing, we are using some kind of locking doors, some self-charging electronic devices, some powering wearable devices, self-powered wearable, charging electronic gadgets. So many new gadgets has come. So basically, where I am using certain kind of energy, or maybe nowadays some kind of battery or maybe watches has come. So simple, from your body temperature, it can be charged. So no need to put any external source over there. So these all are the different examples of this kind of trioelectricity. Now we have come to the last part of that particular lecture. So how to do the research in energy. So my advice to you all is that first is that identify a topic or problem for explorations. Why I am talking about that? Because in this particular point you should be very, very precautious, because if your topic and problems should be very unique, very specific, and there should be some answers or maybe some solutions of that particular problem. Say when I'm talking about some innovations, when I'm talking about some new idea or maybe the new research, that doesn't mean that I have to think very, very big any problems. No, some simple problems also you can take out, but there should be some uniqueness. Say suppose somebody has written anything in the red color and you are writing in that black color, and you can say, sir, black, till now nobody has written the black color, but idea was already there. So my thinking is that you have to take the problem in such a manner that till now nobody has taken up that particular problem. because it is the biggest problem when we are evaluating the project proposals at the national fair, or maybe that IRIS national fair, or maybe in the ISF also. We have seen that the students, the young generations, they are having a very beautiful mind, they are having a very good thinking power, at least very good than me also, because they are young, they are energetic, so they are having n number of ideas. But my question is that when you are going to take up the problem, just see that that problem has not been taken up by somebody else till now. For that, how you are going to know that the somebody has not taken up? Then the second point will come. That is the search the relevant literature. Now Google is there. If you Google it, n number of informations will come. So nobody can't hide any informations in today's world. So you can search that where this problem has been taken up, how much development has been done, and then after that you are having a firm idea, and then after that you can take up your problem that yes, till now this part has not been thought about, or maybe nobody has done any kind of work on this particular topic, so I can take. Describe your aim. So your aim should be very, very firm. So what you are going to do. So you should have the answer, know how to solve your problem. That is basically we are calling it as a methodology by simulations or experimental. Simulations means some kind of computer modeling, or maybe some kind of theoretical solutions, some mathematics, or maybe some mechanics, and experimental, or maybe both. Next, do proper analysis of the results. Sorry. So why I'm talking about the proper analysis, sometimes it may happen that if you are going to do certain kind of analysis, say suppose in my view it is absolutely straight, but in your view maybe it is having some 1 or 2 degree bend. So now my concern is that I have to do the proper analysis, because when I am going to stand for any fair or maybe for anywhere, I have to prove myself. So I need proper explanations to back up my thinking. I need the proper calculations. I need the proper justifications why it has come. I am not telling that whatever the results you are getting, that every time it should be positive. No. Suppose you are getting some negative results also. But if you are able to prove, yes, the negative results are there, you are genius. You can do it. So every time it should not be that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. If you are able to prove that 2 plus 2 is equal to minus 4 also, so of course you are going to be great. So why I am giving this type of examples is that whatever the results you are getting, that don't think that every time the result will be in your favor. If you are able to justify the wrong results also, that is also the innovations. Because till now nobody has done that 2 plus 2 is equal to minus 4. Next, apply them in the real-time applications and the problems. Yes, because you are going to solve certain problems what basically the human being are facing. So you have to solve, or maybe you need the answer of that, or maybe those particular problems. Next is that what is the few energy projects already performed. So I have gathered a very small informations, but I guess it is already there in our IRIS websites and the ISF website too, that whatever the project or maybe the topic has already been done in this particular area. So if I talk about the solar forest fire detection using optimized solar powered wireless sensor networks, triboelectricity design and development of triboelectric nanogenerators for waste energy harvesting. Waste energy, it is a waste totally. So if I am able to generate certain kind of electricity from the waste, so it will be a fantastic one. Hydrogen, a green method of making the hydrogen necessary for running hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Biofuel productions, what conditions would produce the most efficient conversion of algae to a useful fuel. Nowadays, there is, if you visit the IIT Delhi, you can find that there are 2 or 3 buses are running inside the campus, which is run by the hydrogen. Some spacecraft the NASA is sending with the hydrogen fuel. Some Indian Oil has started, Indian Oil or National Power Grid, they have started some power motor which is run by the hydrogen. Wind power, what propeller size is the most efficient in producing the electricity? Because for that particular case, you need certain kind of optimizations, some kind of innovations, some kind of mathematical calculations. So basically, this is an example. So where I am showing that in ISA 2019 project completed in collaborations with the ACL, because basically last year, one student, he was doing the work, as I told already, some harnessing energy from the random vibrations using the triboelectric effect. So I was the mentor for his particular project, and he has done some work in my lab also. So basically, after finalizations, he has prepared the poster in such a manner. So basically, where you have to write some introductions, some background of the problem, some objectives, what you are going to do, some hypotheses. Hypothesis means what basically you are taking as input parameters, then methodology, how you have done, and next one is the result and discussions, how we have performed the experiments, and then from the experiments what result you have achieved, then conclusions, then some advantages of that particular problem, applications where you can use that particular problem, future scope, in future if somebody will take up that particular project, that in future how they are going to perform, or maybe how he or she can take up this problem and how he or she can do further. Then some acknowledgements are there, and then the references. So basically, when we are doing at the last, just before going to ISF or maybe the IRIS National Fair, so we are making this kind of poster where it will give a total idea how you are going to take the problems, how you are conceptualize the problems, how you are thinking the problems, how you are trying to take the input parameters of that particular problem, what is already existed, and now what you are going to do, how you have performed, and what result you have achieved, and what contribution you have done to the society or maybe for the human being. So it will give a total idea. So ACL is my lab basically, so that's why it has been given ACL, and that is Advanced Composite Lab. Now I have come to the last slide. So basically conclusions. So energy is essential to life and all living organisms. Yes, of course, it is a never-ending process. Basics of some energy harvesting and storage device and techniques I have discussed to generate some new ideas for you guys. Few simple steps were provided to start thinking and conducting the research in different areas. I have given an overall idea. There are n number of things where you can take up different research idea for your future purpose. A strong research exposure is required from school level to invent the new device ideas that helps the nation. Yes, of course, because you people are the carrier for the next generation's science. So basically, if you think something and your catching power or maybe the brilliancy is much better, so you can take up some problem, you can think very fast, you can do anything you want. So this is the right time, just jump on it, do it. So I hope you can do better. So all the best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik Pal. Thank you so much. I think that was a very informative presentation, and I'm sure that everybody who has joined the webinar today is certain to benefit from it. We will now quickly have a video from our past IRIS students, and we will then come back for questions. So please, in the meanwhile, please feel free to type the questions in the chat section while the video is on.
Are you ready for the ride of your life? Well, it all begins right here. Your first step is picking a category you can enter by yourself or with a partner. If you are in 5th to 8th standard, you will be in junior category. If you are in 9th to 12th, you are in senior category and have a chance of making it all the way to ISEF. Now that you know which category you are in, it is time to find out which subject your project comes under.
At IRIS, you have a variety of 21 subject categories to choose from, ensuring that your project has a category that fits. The categories include animal sciences, behavioral and social sciences, biochemistry, biomedical and health sciences, biomedical engineering, cellular and molecular biology, chemistry, computational biology and bioinformatics, earth and environmental sciences, embedded systems, energy, sustainable materials and design, engineering mechanics, environmental engineering, material sciences, mathematics, microbiology, physics and astronomy, plant sciences, robotics and intelligent machines, system software, and transitional medical sciences.
A display shows the public and the judges what you have done. You're looking to attract and inform visitors about your project. To make it easy for people to access your results by creating a clear, attractive and concise display. The focus should be the work. Take a look at this reference.
Your title should be simple and must accurately represent your research.
Take photographs or videos of important parts or phases of your experiment to use in your display.
Prepare a miniature of your model in case your prototype is too large to be carried along.
Make sure your display is logically presented and easy to read.
Use neat, colorful headings, charts, and graphs to present your project. Pay special attention to labeling.
Be sure to adhere to the size limitations and safety rules when preparing your display.
The IRIS journey begins with registration on the website www.irisnationalfair.org with submission of online synopsis and supporting documents. These entries are prejudged by the IRIS Scientific Review Committee, and shortlisted projects are sent an email inviting them to participate in the IRIS National Science Fair. Winners of the IRIS National Science Fair qualify for an intensive series of mentoring camps and get the opportunity to represent India at platforms such as the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair in the United States of America. ISEF is the world's largest pre-college STEM competition. Over 265 Indian students have won over 160 awards at this competition, competing with over 6 million high school students from all over the world each year. Not only are you getting a chance to make your nation proud, but if you're lucky, you could join the 31 Indian students who have had minor planets named after them.
So guys, please don't miss this opportunity.
It's your turn now.
If you're innovative and you really want to bring about a change in the world, I think IRIS is the right place for you.
You enjoy science and math and computer science and so on. So I mean, it gives you a platform to show what you've done, and you have a chance to go to ISEF too.
If science actually kindles your curiosity and you're really passionate about it, IRIS provides you the largest platform in India to show your talent.
Applying to IRIS, not only get to have a great experience, you meet great people and great mentors at that. They're not judges, they're not judging you, they're mentoring you, they're teaching you. They make you learn new things.
In the end, it's not about winning or losing, it's about experience, and IRIS National Fair guarantees great experience.
Don't tell people what your dreams are. Show what your dreams are through IRIS.
It's once in a lifetime experience.
It's your turn.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
we're now open for questions. So if you have any questions for our expert panelist, you could please raise your hand and we will unmute your mic and you can ask the question. Meanwhile, there are a couple of questions in the chat as well, sir. So we will call out those questions if you could address them, sir. So there is one question from Parth Sarda. Why aren't we using fusion and fission energy, which are like unlimited sources of energy for energy generation, and can such projects be considered for IRIS?
Yeah, dear Parth, thanks a lot for your questions. The answer of your questions is that first you have to define what is fusion and what is the fission, right? Any of the energy will comes under the fusions or maybe the fissions kind of things. But now the question is that yes, of course, there is no such foundations that we cannot take it into the IRIS or maybe the ISF. But there are certain material constraints which we cannot take it out. Suppose if you are having some kind of nuclear materials, so which we can't allow or maybe we can't take to the systems. Of course, from the research point of view, you can do it, but you have to see that because this kind of material, first of all, it is very costly and it is not easily available. So if I can take any kind of problems which will be very, very costly and which is not affordable and we need lots of time, lots of, first of all, getting that this kind of nuclear materials is not so easy. We need to get the permissions from the higher authority like BARC or maybe the IGCAR kind of things. So it is not readily available. So of course you can do it, but you have to see that how much power you are generating from that particular systems and how much money you are putting onto the systems. So if it is a profitable one or maybe if it is a good one, then you can go for it. There is no other problem. Next.
Thank you, sir. There is a question from Mr. Bijoy Mathur, which is, I think, has come privately, but I'll just read it out. He is asking, what is the status of Kalam NASA Solar Power Harvest Tech power transfer from space?
The Kalam NASA is working actually. ISRO have done certain work, but the problem is that in this particular case, unless and until we will get some approvals from the government point of view and as well as the other space agency around the world, we cannot do it because in this particular case, India is not only the first country that what we are going to use it, because if we are taking certain kind of new materials or new things, we have to take the permissions from the other country or maybe from the NASA. So basically we are trying to do in the NASA ISRO point of view. I can tell that ISRO is thinking so many new materials, so many new. Recently they have sent that in the Mars also, in the solar also, that they are working on the Gaganyaan. That is the very good innovative idea. Now they are working on. They are trying to send it to the, and they have given the name Gaganyaan. And also I was having the opportunity in December visited to ISRO, and I have seen that they are trying to send one humanoid basically. So it is a human robot. So to the space, to the satellite, so that it can work as like a human being. It is having all the sense organ, it can sense, it can do anything. But the thing is that, as I told already, these all are the kind of the things is not so easy because their environment, their temperature. Say suppose if I go to the moon, so I can get the vacuum environment. But if I go to Mars, so I can get some sulfur environment over there, or maybe some kind of toxic gas environment over there. So why I am talking about this in your questions also, suppose you are sending any spacecraft. So the spacecraft, when it is going into the space or maybe any other planet, so it is crossing so many different zones, different area where the temperature environment is totally different. So for making that kind of materials is very, very challenging. Yes, of course, you can take up some certain kind of materials for that particular case.
Thank you, sir. There's a question from Aditya. Aditya, you say the IRIS website says registrations are closed. Yes, we agree with you. This was actually a message because the last year's registrations are closed. I think we need to re-look at that message to say Registrations will soon be open. Okay. The other part of the question is, can e-vehicles be considered in IRIS? I will leave Sir to answer that question. However, from my side, all I can say is that if it is an e-vehicle, please consider getting a prototype and not the exact big vehicle with you.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And not only that, in the e-vehicle is already there. As I told already, for making a vehicle, but if you are talking about the energy point of view, if you make certain kind of new energy systems, that is absolutely okay. But the thing is that everything should be prototype, because there is certain kind of mandatory size limitations over there, because you have to take this particular prototype to the ISF to show them. So now the question is that I cannot take any kind of big e-vehicle or maybe any kind of automotive parts over there. So if you are able to show us some kind of prototype device, it is absolutely fantastic, no problem. But before that, you have to check into the website. There are certain things which you can't carry with you. That is also the another thing, because you have to go by the flight and all these things. So maybe the carrier can decline all these kind of things. So that is the thing.
Somebody called Shalini SS is asking, is there a way to make use of UV rays? I think it was there in the presentation.
It's already there.
Yeah.
It is already there. Nowadays, you can think this, the pandemic situations, if you go through some kind of news or maybe the TVs or maybe some newspaper, you can find that lots of people or maybe lots of scientists, they are working on certain kind of box which is having the UV light, and just to sanitize the belongings or maybe the fruits, or maybe even if you go through nowadays the flights also, in the airport also they have put all kind of these kind of things where our bag, when it is passing through the scanner, so basically it is going under the UV lights and it is scanning and detecting, and it is can kill the viruses also. And not only that, the best example of using the of that particular UV lights is if you are having some water purifier in your home. Suppose you are having any Kent and all these things, you can find that inside there is UV lamp over there. So basically we are using the UV lamp for the bacteria killing.
So there's another question now from Manpreet Singh. He asks, can we use bioenergy in our projects? Can you also tell us how it would be viable to use it?
Yes, you can use the bioenergy in your project, but as I told already, so there should be some innovative idea over there, some innovations over there, and you have to prove that it is the unique one. Say suppose if you want to take certain kind of bio waste or maybe the biomaterials or maybe the bio things, it's absolutely fine. People are working on the algae also, people are using some kind of bio bacteria also, so which is able to generate the electricity. But the thing is that it is already there in the nature. So if I take or maybe find that is there is no innovation. So my thinking or maybe my advice is that when you are taking up any kind of projects or maybe the any kind of idea or maybe any kind of research, there should be some uniqueness from your point of view. The source is here the biomaterials, but the thing is that you have to do certain kind of new mechanisms or maybe some new thinkings or maybe some new findings. That's all.
So there's a question from Sogata Basak. They ask, why can't we use OTE as energy source since it is renewable?
OTE?
Yes, sir.
OTE means, what does it mean? Can you ask?
So Gata, if you could type that in the chat. What ocean thermal energy, sir?
Yes, we are using ocean thermal OTE. Okay, OTE. Ocean thermal we are using, because as I given some kind of examples over them in the ocean thermal energy, and not only that, in the in the ocean, when we are having so many animals, so many creatures over there, they are inhaling and exhaling different types of gases, toxic gases. Nowadays we are trying to trap those gases or maybe trap their energy under the sea, and if we able to catch that energy and if we able to convert that energy, particular energy, into harvesting our electric energy, that is a fantastic. People are working on it. People are working. It is not the new one. Ocean thermal is already there. Even not only that, people are trying to work on that some volcanic eruptions also, because high energy heat is coming out from that particular case on the earth crust. So basically we are trying to capture those energy. Yes, of course we are unable to reach at that particular point because it is tremendous temperature that any system can't survive. But yes, of course, up to certain distance we can capture those heat and we can use it for the future applications. We can do it. Sir, can you explain what is algae battery? Okay, so the algae battery is basically, it is some algae biobacteria synthesis process. So in that particular case, we are using certain kind of bacteria. So basically the bacteria is able to generate some kind of, their body, some kind of electrochemical reactions is going on by which they are able to generate the electricity. Now the question is that why we are calling it as a battery? So basically the battery, why battery is the storage system. So whatever the one algae is generating, that is not sufficient to use it. Maybe it is some kind of millivolt or maybe the microvolt. But for our case, we need certain kind of 240 volt or maybe the 420 volts like that, 440 volt basically. So in that particular, so then what we are doing? So we are using that bacteria, we are calling it as a battery, so that we are getting a limited amount. At least we need 1 millivolt or maybe the 2 millivolt to lighting one diode, okay, or maybe one LED. So basically one LED, if I need 2 millivolt and if I'm getting something in nanovolt or maybe the picovolt, which is not sufficient, so that time I need some battery where I can store my energy, and when I need or maybe my requirement is there, I can utilize that particular energy. Its algae battery is already there. But another drawbacks of these batteries is also there, because you are nurturing with the bacteria or maybe some kind of animal creatures, and they are also releasing certain kind of toxic gases, which is not good for the environment. That also another drawback of this particular system.
So there's a question that has come in privately. Sehaj asks, what is expected in an ideal synopsis?
Ideas, innovations, and proper explanations.
Along with that, sir, I would like to add, I would like to give a small presentation. I would like to share a slide with you. Please. Certainly give you some idea of how, what all should comprise of a synopsis. These are the 4 points which you can consider while you are writing a synopsis. Obviously, a synopsis should be a brief of a summary of your project and should not exceed 250 words. Judges and other viewers should get a fairly accurate idea of project. So that is the reason you have to cover all the important points from a project. And the research work which you are doing, which you are writing in a synopsis, it has to be a current year's research work. So basically, yes, you can work on a project for 2 or 3 years, but the experiments which you are conducting, the material which you are using has to be recent, because over the period of time, there are a lot of innovations also keep coming in our research, and materials also keep changing. So you make sure when you are writing your experiment data, it has to be from the current year. And these are certain things which should be there in your synopsis, which are the background of idea, hypothesis, experiment details, results, conclusion, and innovation. Here is an example of an ideal synopsis. If you can look here, we have highlighted these points in the color coded over here. This starts with background of idea, hypothesis, experiment conducted, result, followed by conclusion. Yes, please continue. Any further questions? Sasha, can you please unmute Raj Goyal? He has raised his hand.
Yes, Raj, you may now ask Dr. Pal your question.
Sir, why aren't we able to use a graphene technology?
You are talking about the graphene?
Yes, sir.
Graphene is already there. People are working lots of things from the graphene. People have used the graphene, people have used the graphene oxide, people have used the reduced graphene oxides. So there are n number of things has been done already by the graphene. Now the question is that how you are going to use the graphene, because there are so many forms. So you have to make certain kind of composite materials. People are using the graphene nano ribbons. People are using the normal simple 2D graphenes. People have used the carbon nanotubes. Carbon nanotubes also so many types: single wall carbon nanotubes, multi-wall carbon nanotubes. People have used the graphene quantum dots, nanodots. So there are n number of things has already been done. You can use it. There is no problem at all, but only you have to check that somebody has not done yet.
Are there any more questions? Well, I think we have had a number of questions, and thank you so much, sir, for answering these questions in so much detail. Participants, the recording of this webinar will be available on the IRIS National Fair website. So you may refer to this and to other webinars as and when you require. We are taking you through the PPT quickly right now. This is for the, for the project submissions, etc. And basically, all this is available for you on the website as well. And well, we've taken a lot of time. We've kind of covered a lot of ground. And thank you so very much once more, Dr. Kaushik Pal, for your time and for taking time out to so patiently answer everybody's questions. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day to all.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Participants, please feel free to send in any questions that you may have. And if your questions need to be directed to any particular expert on our panel, please write the category and we will ensure that your questions reach the expert and you are answered accordingly. Thank you so much, everyone.